このビデオはコナミの提供でお送りします。I am honored to say I was given the opportunity to play Silent Hill F and bring to you my experience playing the game, and I am very, very thankful to say that this video is sponsored by Konami. So before we go anywhere, I'm going to give a quick spoiler-free overview, answer some questions you might have for those wondering whether to pick it up. You can buy it right now on PS5, Xbox Series XS, and PC using my link in the description. What is the horror like? Really, really good. The intensity does ebb and flow a little bit, and most of it comes in the form of Silent Hill's signature body horror. And if you're familiar with Yumineko or the Higurashi series, then you'll be delighted to know that Ryukishio 7 is the author behind Silent Hill F's story. So if that's any indication of what's in store, you will certainly feel that influence in some places. The atmospheric horror is also pretty solid. The fog, the claustrophobia, the discomfort, and because this game is steeped in traditional Japanese culture, including shrines, rituals, and folklore, it carries a mysticism that, at least for me as a non-Japanese player, only makes the world feel more unfamiliar. And this is intentional because Konami acknowledges that they felt that the series' original blend of cultural horror had been drifting a little bit too far into Western tropes, so F's story returns more to its Japanese horror roots. What about the monsters and character designs? The monster designs are excellent. I mean, they're quite stark in what they're meant to symbolize, plus the fact that the journal actually has a monster section to help clarify, but they're still grotesque and beautiful in their own right. The human characters, on the other hand, are designed quite simply, but that simplicity makes the few who do stand out feel all the more unsettling. The game is quite a feast for the eyes. How long is the game? My first playthrough took about 12 hours, and I did my best to explore as much as I could. I was in absolutely no rush. But the thing is, despite that, you are not going to get the full story in one go. On a second playthrough, there were things that I understood a lot better, as there are new items, new dialogue, new puzzles, new bosses, and extra unlockable endings. And how does it feel overall? I mean, I was scared, I was stressed, I was shocked, I had to reread text in disbelief at times. Some moments dredged up old personal memories of mine, as I did resonate with the protagonist and found myself genuinely rooting for her. The gameplay had a little bit more action than I was expecting, but that's because the combat mechanics are inspired by components from Silent Hill 3 and 4, which I have yet to play. For reference, for anyone who didn't know, my only experience with Silent Hill has been through 2's remake, of which I adored. Just wanted to establish my knowledge basis going forward. I am a noob. But even though you have moves like a dodge and a charge attack and stamina to manage, Silent Hill F still has that deliberate, resource-driven survivability to it. And overall, it was a wild, emotional ride. So from here on, I'm going to be recapping my experience playing the game, mentioning specifics about areas, monsters, and story beats, but no major spoilers. You have been warned. So if you'd like to step into Fogtown yourself, then please do so by using my link in the description. Okay, let's go. You are introduced to Hinako, a high schooler reminiscing about her childhood. Her sister Junko interrupts, and the way she is portrayed is immediately distinctive. The camera never shows her face directly. You only glimpse her in a family photograph, Junko centered between her parents, with Hinako standing awkwardly a little bit apart. But even in the in-game journal, Junko's face is left undrawn, a small but telling detail, and I'll go more into the journal a little bit later because it is such a vitally important and surprisingly enjoyable part of this game. The game wastes no time in showing that Hinako has a fractured family life. After a heated argument, she leaves her home and takes a narrow, hilly path down to the small village of Ebisugaoka. The air is still, the sound of the breeze through the grass, and Hinako's breath carrying you forward. You go through winding streets, layered housing, and there's a small stream that cuts through the town. And no one in sight. Ducking through these silent alleyways, I found myself really on edge, bracing myself for something waiting to grab me. There's a jump scare at the end of this. I am...
God. I'm doomed. I'm doomed.
But nothing. Not yet. Soon Hinako meets up with 3 of her friends. Sakuko, the eccentric one, Rinko, sharper and a bit more stuck up, and Shu, her childhood playmate. Their conversations feel a little bit awkward, partly because of their age, but also thanks to the classic Silent Hill strangeness. They're framed as her friends, yet the girls in particular seem to take advantage of Hinako's kindness, borrowing money, making jokes at her expense right in front of her. But Hinako never really pushes back. She either shrugs it off or doesn't really call attention to it. Then the fog rolls in, and with it the game's key symbol, a spider lily. This flower decorates the whole game, and your first encounter with it is pretty memorable. I mean, I don't have trypophobia, but I struggled to watch this. Sakako is pierced and overtaken, its stamens threading into her skin and blooming out of her body until she collapses. The spider lily is already loaded with meaning, known as a corpse flower or a resurrection lily, often tied to death and farewells in East Asian culture. In F, it may be a signal that an otherworldly boundary is being crossed, and maybe even hints at what the F in the title stands for. Flower. Separated from her friends, Hinako flees through the fog and the flowers, chased by a formless fog monster. You don't really see it clearly, only hearing its guttural groans in this pressurized air. As you find yourself deeper in the village, you meet your first enemy, the Kashimashi.
Oh. Who kicked that bucket? Oh no. Oh nope. 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 Oh. Oh God. Oh God. Oh no. Oh.
These are your staple enemies, pretty much like how legs are in Silent Hill 2. They're quite unnerving to look at and worse to hear, a combination of squelching, clacking and metal scraping. The name Kashimashi means noisy, and it does fit. Their bodies twist and crack, and their pelvic area is exposed, but not showing bone, but joints of opposable doll. Their faces grin unnaturally, mouths torn at the corners, and eyes sealed under tissue and gore. And now would be a good time to mention that you don't have a weapon. For my first hour, I didn't have a weapon. The game teaches you how to dodge before it teaches you how to fight. And it rewards you for doing that. A perfect dodge can recover your stamina, a resource that you really can't afford to waste. You can't just spam rolls or swing wildly, timing really does matter here. Later, more mechanics will open up. Counters, focus attacks, a sanity bar to manage. But even with all those systems, combat remains careful and methodical, and fighting is actually more of a last resort. An example of this is when I stumbled into a house.
What could possibly go wrong? Sumimasen. Oh. Oh, actually.
It's quiet, but not silent. The buzzing of the flickering light, an ambient hum that lingers, and nowhere to go but upstairs.
What's that? What is that? Is that a face? What is that? What is that? Move camera. Examine. Oh, that's a face. That is a... That's a key in a face. Not sure what it unlocks. Probably the rest of her downstairs. Oh, good lord. Oh, good lord.
When you finally find your key out, a Kashimashi appears on the landing and chases you through the narrow corridors of the house. Unarmed, your only option is to run, and it really activated that primal flight instinct within me. And if you break line of sight, the enemy will eventually give up chase. The game, right from the start, teaches you that running away is just as valid a survival technique as fighting is. Even when you do get weapons, the game reinforces this idea through the existence of the durability system. Now, don't get me wrong, I initially was a bit hesitant about this aspect. I'm not the biggest fan of sharpening and repairing in video games, but allow me to challenge your thinking. Hinako never gets a ranged weapon in this entire game. She is a melee-only user. So durability is to a metal pipe what ammo is to a gun in other survival horrors. Finite and something you have to think about before wasting. And to be honest, I didn't struggle at all with the durability in this game. There are toolkits that can repair your weapons, but I often found myself discarding weapons for a fresh replacement instead of burning a toolkit. If you explore, you will get weapon pickups at a fair pace. You also get a variety of weapon types. Fast, slow, longer reach, better stun time, so I really enjoyed switching to what was situationally appropriate. Every swing, every dodge, every resource decision matters, and when you're already on edge, that makes every encounter even more scary. When Hinako returns to Sakako, you see a softer, nurturing side to her. She rushes to help, wrapping a blanket around her friend and offering quiet words of comfort. There is a recurring theme throughout the game of how Hinako is not a girly girl. Rinko makes jabs about it constantly, and even Shu admits how he doesn't really see her that way. The game doesn't pull any punches in showing the societal expectations of the time. Women are meant to be homemakers, good cooks, mothers who stay quiet and keep their hands clean. Men, meanwhile, are pushed into equally rigid roles. Hot-blooded providers, real men drink beer, real men play baseball. The sexism is quite blunt, but it does make its point. And I think most of us can agree, nobody likes it when a game tries to shove a message down our throats. Sexism bad isn't really a revelation. But in Silent Hill F, these ideas are expressed through art and symbolism. It doesn't try to lecture you. It lets you sit with the discomfort. And that's why Silent Hill has the reputation that it does, for embodying bigger concepts through characters' psyches and the nightmarish monsters that manifest. As for Hinako herself, I really liked her as the protagonist. She's a badass, but not in the manufactured sense. She feels really hardy and authentic, the kind of teenager who doesn't realize she's being cool. Because honestly, I'm really tired of the pandering, cool female protagonists that some games try to push. Hinako works because she's believable. The game's setting comments on that awkward transition between middle and high school, where boys and girls suddenly realize that they're expected to act differently. Running around in your underwear together in the river isn't acceptable anymore. Hinako, though, still longs for that freedom to catch bugs in the dirt, to play make-believe Space Wars with Shu. Meanwhile, the other girls are experimenting with fashion, doing their hair, getting boyfriends. The clock ticks as those days of childhood slip through Hinako's fingers, replaced with pressure, division, and resentment from others. As we later learn, the girls are actually jealous of Hinako. Anyway, after saying goodbye to Sakako, Hinako is interrupted by monsters invading her childhood hangout spot. She's filled with anger and courage, grabbing her steel pipe and lashing out in a bloodthirsty rage against those who wronged her, took away her friends. But quickly the adrenaline fades and Hinako collapses, and that's why she isn't just a one-dimensional character to me. She's kind, she's dependable, strong when she needs to be, but at the end of the day, still a human, still just a kid. Hinako awakens in this game's version of the Otherworld, and I'll be referring to it as such throughout this video, manifesting in this game as an ancient temple lit with candles and lanterns and lined with fox statues. It's here that you learn more about the sanity meter, illustrated by these flowers. Certain interactions or enemy attacks can cause sanity to drain, and when it empties, it begins eating into your health. You can recover sanity by consuming certain items or escaping from the traumatic situation, but you can also weaponize this resource. In focus mode, you stare closely at an enemy, the sound dampens, time slows, and their attacks become clearer, giving you a bigger window to counter. You can also charge a powerful attack this way too. Now, focus mode isn't required to read enemy tells, but it does make them easier to anticipate, at the cost of your sanity. And that feels very thematic. I mean, Forcing yourself to stare at an abomination, resisting the urge to turn away, would naturally be quite draining. It's in this shrine that you meet the character of Foxmask, a mysterious figure who acts as a guide but clearly knows more than he lets on. This feels like a good moment to gush about the journal. I highly recommend interacting with this as much as possible. The game will notify you whenever it updates, and every page is illustrated. Even the map is doodled with sketches. The character section is particularly unique, a hand-drawn style for everyone Hinako knows, paired with her thoughts, memories, and anecdotes. There are symbolic doodles too, Sakuko as a rabbit, Foxmask obviously a fox, and Hinako as a bird. Her name is later revealed to mean baby bird. These animal symbols will reappear throughout the game if you're paying attention, and they have a lot of meaning to them. The monster section is also worth checking out, filled with notes about their appearances, behaviour, and hints on how to fight them.
Oh, monsters. Yes, monster log. Oh! Oh, when the game has a bestiary.
The journal also tracks your puzzle hints and contains vital information to fill gaps in the story, as Hinako is the one writing in it. Foxmask leads you through torii gates with charms, the lantern your only light. At one shrine you get a better look at the Inari statues you'll become quite familiar with, leering with long snouts and sharp toothy grins. And then you hear it, the jangle of chains. A shackled monster arrives, clasped in irons, metal digging into its wrists, sores oozing across its body, its chest hollowed by an abscess. It has no face, only a concave opening crawling with maggots. Hinako clasps her mouth shut to stifle a scream because this creature is blind. It hunts by sound. Now, weapons from Ebisugaoka don't carry over here, but Hinako does receive a kaiken, a small ceremonial dagger. Durability doesn't apply in the other world. Yay! But enemies also don't stay dead. Oh no, I didn't quite realise that until a little later, during a puzzle. On hard difficulty, the intended way to play, the riddles are written in archaic, cryptic phrasing that does make you stop and think. The puzzle here involved inspecting wooden plaques really closely, zooming in and flipping them over and trying to identify the correct one. And while I was locked into this animation, I realised I could hear something.
Let the music get better. Oh God. Oh. Oh. No, I have to solve the puzzle. Leave me alone.
The music had changed. The shackled monster had resurrected and was circling the area, patrolling right in front of me while I was still trying to solve a puzzle. So not only am I trying to rack my brain trying to figure out what a kudzu flower is, I'm also praying the monster doesn't hear me moving. And this will not be the last time Silent Hill F uses its puzzles to scare you. Back in Ebisugaoka, Hinako and Shu team up to find Ninko, and the theme of this area is pretty hair-raising.
Oh, into the fields. Oh. Nothing good happens in the rice fields.
The farmland is thick with fog, segmented by rice paddies, so you can only move along the raised paths, while kashimashis roam the soil below. And now they can jump.
Oh, they're jumping.
I stepped slowly forward, keeping my eye on them for as long as possible before they disappeared into the haze. And I really liked how you begin to see slight variations in their design. Some have different hairstyles, others have more flowers that infest their bodies. It's subtle at first, but this corruption builds over the course of the game. And then there are the Scarecrows, standing on the horizon, half hidden in the mist, occasionally tricking me into thinking an enemy was waiting. Yeah, about that. After reminiscing with Shu about how you used to get lost here as a child, you get lost here, in the cropland.
Oh, yeah, that's good. I appreciate that. Oh. Those aren't scarecrows. Oh my god.
There it is. A scarecrow waiting to greet you, but some of these are not like the others. They look like people. Classmates, wearing old uniforms and strung up, and naturally still with these unsettling, frozen expressions. For me, this was the scariest puzzle in the whole game. I don't like mannequins. As a child, I was terrified of them, convinced they were waiting for their chance to move and scare me. And now, guess what this puzzle requires?
I have to look them in the eye. Okay, really good. Really oh my god. Oh my. Nope. 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 No. 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 I don't want to do this. 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 I really don't want to do this, actually. You know what? It's fine. I'm just going to take my chances. I'm so sorry. Okay, I've lost. Shoot. Oh, shoot. What's going on? No!
You have to read the riddle, identify which scarecrow it's describing, and then zoom in, rotate, and locate the thorn that's bothering them and pull it out. Only then will the scarecrow point you in the right direction so you don't become more lost. This was my first obstacle in the game because it preyed directly on a fear of mine, and I had to stop for a moment just to gather myself. And then, if things couldn't get worse, I found another scarecrow a bit further off from the others, and I initially thought, oh, this puzzle is a bit bigger than I expected. I turned my point of view away, only to realise...
Oh, shoot. Oh, that's coming towards me, isn't it? Oh, why?
As warned by a note, one of the scarecrows here is not what it seems. This is the Ayakakashi, the false scarecrow. It only moves when you aren't looking directly at it, even when you're locked into examining a puzzle.
Dude, that's not fair. You're not allowed to come towards me while I'm doing the thing. Are you serious? Are you serious?
I decided the only way I was going to get through this was to face my fears, take it head on and down the enemy, and give myself some breathing room to finish the puzzle. If you pick the wrong scarecrow, it will spring to life and attack you. But eventually I got there. I'd completed Puzzle 1.
Follow the wind. Oh. Oh no, there's more? That was just the first one? That took like half an hour. Yeah, I know. Can you believe it?
By Puzzle 4, the game threw a curveball at me. As I was sitting at my desk, thinking about what the riddle meant, something shifted in the edge of my vision.
Imagine how it feels. You hurt me and even hurt him. What? Oh god. Oh shoot. Oh, that's... Oh, my heart. What is happening? Are there multiple? If there's multiple, I'm... Oh.
Multiple Ayakakashi began to converge from different directions, swarming me. And even when you solve the final puzzle, it's not over. The scarecrow stares into your soul, and you see into its head, hollow cartilage, honeycombed, like some grotesque hive. This whole section messed with me psychologically. The uncanniness of the scarecrow's design, the demand to look straight at what you're afraid of, the dread of leaving your back exposed.
Sure, you'll never believe what I've been through. Oh, we disappeared. Oh. Wait. What is happening?
And that second guessing of your own perception was a very quintessentially Silent Hill thing. So eventually the three reunite, and more awkwardness ensues as Rinko obviously likes Shu. Shu seems slightly inconvenienced but doesn't really do anything about it, and Hinako is just there.
Wait, what are you looking at me for? Okay.
As the group form a plan, it becomes evident that the bond between Hinako and Shu is much stronger than between Rinko and anyone else. This tension culminates in Rinko snapping and pushing you down the stairs. You then transition back to the other world, this time through a long corridor section. Nothing happens for an agonizing amount of time, just a door slam here, a faint knock there, something falling in the distance, really keeping you on your toes.
You've got to be crazy if you think I'm going in there.
There is once again a lot of symbolic imagery here that will be explained later.
Oh, there's ladies. Oh, there's headless ladies. Oh, no. Oh.
I need to calm down. And then you are finally cornered with a new enemy type. Similar to the Kashimashi and the metallic racket that they make, this creature balances on rusty blades for legs, like a robotic ballet dancer. On its head it wears a okame mask, a folk character symbolizing a cheerful, homely woman who brings good fortune and fertility. Something that represents laughter and abundance is trying to kill you. And seeing the face on that mask as it spins and kicks was really unnerving.
Oh, she's smart. Oh, she's looking.
But luckily you get a new otherworld weapon, the Naginata. As you press forward, you hear Sakuko's voice calling as you weave through more corridors. And then another new enemy makes its appearance, the Oi Omoi, a monstrosity built from abandoned toy dolls. Plastic hands, porcelain heads, black glassy eyes, all fused to an insect-like exoskeleton. It whines and cries, pushing Hinako into a state of stress and encouraging you to flee, straight towards the echo of Sakuko's own sobbing, the loneliness she feels, repeatedly calling Hinako a traitor. What you know about Sakuko at this point is that she is regarded as a strange girl, with a fascination for spirits, and others feel uneasy around her and the way she talks. Fittingly, you find a Sakuko-like entity dressed as a shrine maiden, but something is off. Her pigtails are clumped with scalp grease, her bones snap as she moves, and her lower jaw hangs dislocated, insect legs jutting out as she screams. This is your first proper boss fight. Sakuko wields a spiked mace and a chain, each swing marked by the toll of a bell. At certain points she raises her mace, her halo glowing, as she gathers energy to release a psychologically damaging shockwave, taunting Hinako. Eventually I realised you have to interrupt this, running through the low visibility to find her. Hinako doesn't even understand why the two are fighting, and the battle only ends when Fox Mask intervenes, banishing Sakuko away as an evil spirit. Back in the real world, you notice the first change to Hinako's appearance. The right sleeve of her uniform has torn at the shoulder. Rinko immediately scolds her for falling down the stairs, and Hinako strangely doesn't correct her, despite recalling what really happened. As the group move on, Rinko keeps needling her, interrupting conversations between Shu and Hinako and picking apart the way she talks and acts, seemingly all in an effort to undermine her. As you backtrack across town again, it's visibly worsening. Flowers infest the streets, everything is tinted red, and a new low guttural slurping sound can be heard. Then comes another enemy reveal.
Oh! Get off me.
A monster with a swollen beer belly and a head like a sea anemone. It hops around on all fours, and if it manages to grab you, it slathers you with its textured tongue. Hinako's journal describes it vividly. The greedily staring eyes, the greasy palms, the way it acts all chummy with me. What's more, it never bothers with guys. Typical. This feels like some embodiment of lechery. Hineko's unease around predatory male attention. What's unusual about this is that she details its eyes, and yet it has none in a typical sense. When it enrages, however, its tentacles pulse and glow. Perhaps this is what she means by feeling watched. Not long after, in a small house, you slide open a door and encounter one of my least favourite enemies gameplay-wise. Still, its design is both gross and great. A heaving mass of faces, vomiting liquid around itself until it collapses to its knees. From their spewing grow spider lilies that will root you in place if you get too close. Hinako writes that she doesn't recognise any of the faces on the monster, yet they all seem to know her. They expel accusations, gossip and insults, strangers spreading lies. A rumour-mongering abomination stemming from Hinako's torment of being judged and torn apart by people she doesn't even know. This segues really nicely into the next area, her old middle school. The school is one of my favourite areas and probably the most classic Silent Hill in atmosphere. Hinako volunteers to scout it out, wandering through long hallways, rows of classrooms, the upstairs wing, a courtyard and the locker rooms. The ambience is perfectly uncanny, flickering lights, faint hums, and the hollow echo of her footsteps on the wooden floor. It's a space that should be bustling with students, but instead it's empty, silent, and a bit liminal.
Well, this is going to be fun.
Early on, you encounter a student tradition, origami. Kids would write down their secrets, complaints, or confessions onto paper, fold it up and discard it, and so their burden could be lifted when someone else would find it and read it. These notes you find are mostly filled with petty cruelty, envy, and rumours, and some seem to target Hinako herself.
Got me rumours. I've always despised her. She goes around pretending like she doesn't want to be a girl when she knows full well she's so much cuter than everyone else. She makes me sick. Oh no, Rinko, why did you write that?
And as you discover more origami, it gets much darker. Among them, notes written in Rinko's handwriting, filled with jealousy and violence.
She should just disappear. I hope someone kills her. Or abducts her. I don't care, just whatever gets Hinako out of my life once for all. Wow. Wow, 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 wow. Oh, I just got shivers from that.
And then came my worst nightmare, the return of the Scarecrows. After catching a glimpse of one in the courtyard, it quickly disappeared, and I thought I'd left them behind, but they've slipped into the school, fitting in really well here due to their school uniforms.
Oh, this is messed up.
And for the most part, they aren't hostile, but they will follow you around as you progress.
Nice.
The school as a whole has loads of cool details in it. Chalkboards that change their text, the fact that a storm seems to be blowing outside, yet in other rooms it's perfectly still. The way the halls gradually fill with flowers each time you pass by. This is Silent Hill at its best, horror that excels not through jump scares, but through its subtlety.
AA or FF? Oh. Oof. That's pretty good.
Eventually, Hinako returns to the classroom, and Shu suggests he take patrol duty so she can get some rest. Of course, Rinko insists on tagging along, but tells Hinako to go to sleep. And strangely, she immediately does, slipping back into the other world. And this time, things get crazy. Here, you must say farewell to your friends before you can move on, each of them standing trial for their sins, with their fate placed in Hinako's hands. I unknowingly did Sakuko's section first, as you can actually choose left or right, and it came as a genuine shock. I hadn't fully clued in on what the sequence was setting up. You learn that she is deathly afraid of the dark, having even caused an incident during a school trip because of it. You eventually find Sakuko trapped in a cage surrounded by lanterns. She sniffles and pleads with you to get her out, And at first I assumed the puzzle would release her, but instead, solving it extinguishes the lanterns, plunging the room into total darkness.
God. Oh God, why did I do that?
For a moment, I thought I'd failed the puzzle. I thought I did it wrong. But then I noticed Hinako's expression. Cold, vengeful, as she stared at Sakuko, who quickly began to spiral into a panic. Hinako then simply walks away. The door closes and Sakuko is left in the pitch black, alone, consumed by her worst fear. This was a real turning point. Hinako doesn't comment on this, just leaving you to sit with the unease. Sakuko was introduced as a bit of a peculiar, absent-minded girl, and to my knowledge at the time, the worst thing she did to Hinako was forget about returning some borrowed money. You get an idea about how Sakuko is insecure about being different, and that her parents seem embarrassed by her at times, which made me sympathise with her. But other notes show because she has such a fragile mental state, her thinking quickly spirals out of control. One example she recounts was a long-distance race during gym class. She asked Hinako and Rinko to run slowly with her at the back because she wasn't very good. Rinko agreed, but Hinako said no. She was in the sports club and her teacher would be furious if she didn't see her trying her best. It's a perfectly reasonable explanation, but in Sakuko's mind, it was rejection, convincing herself that Hinako thinks less of her, that she doesn't want to be held back, and her notes explode into spite as she writes, "I hope Hinako trips and falls and breaks every bone in her body." It seems like Sakuko is projecting her fears, assuming that everyone is laughing behind her back, calling her a freak, and her so-called friends are no exception. In truth, Sakuko is a fragile, lonely girl who catastrophizes, letting her doubts snowball into what she thinks is betrayal. It is revealed later, by unlocking Sakuko's mailbox, that after a psychiatric evaluation at the request of her parents, the doctor concluded that there is nothing wrong with Sakuko. At most, she displayed some mild autism traits. The final line of the report directed at her parents is simple but devastating. Simply raise her with love and affection, and let her mature at her own pace. And yet in Hinako's Silent Hill, she must cut free these friends in order to grow. Whether the notes are real or distorted doesn't matter. For Hinako, Sakuko must be severed. Now, Rinko's comeuppance was a little bit easier to see coming. You stumble into this fiery chamber and find her suspended, also in a cage, but above a pit of lava. True to form, the first thing she does when she sees you is offer you a compliment. Very backhanded, very Rinko way of trying to talk her way out of the situation. Her section has 3 distinct rooms. The first is the general store, where the group used to hang out and buy candy, and you find notes that detail how jealous Rinko was of Shu and Hinako's friendship. Rinko clearly wanted to spend more time with Shu, but she just couldn't find the right way to connect. In her notes, she dismisses their conversations about Space Wars as stupid, but you can kind of tell that she wanted to join in, just to share something in common with Shu. One of the fun features in this area is that there will be a flickering desk lamp. When you switch it on, the room is now illuminated with a dark red tinge, and changes will occur. Some include enemies suddenly appearing.
Messed up and stuff. Oh, good lord. You are wrong for that. Game, you are so wrong for that.
Some will be little details like the candy in the general store rotting into worms and unidentified organs. The text will also change. A note left for Hinako by Rinko was telling her, "Oh, don't feel bad, I bought you this candy," now mutates into, "Wow, I'm such a nice person for getting a sad person like you this nice treat." And in the classroom section, you find out Rinko was or is the class president, apparently because she loved helping people. Then when you turn the red light on, it becomes, "Wow, I love feeling superior to everyone, and I have to take care of these 2 losers," presumably referring to Hinako and Sakuko. In Rinko's bedroom, traditional dolls adorn her space, and with the red light you can turn them over, revealing that they are indeed two-faced. The hidden face will melt and rot. Her obsession with being mature and prioritizing her appearance, in fact, just reveals her lack of beauty on the inside. And with each doll you inspect, the room itself degrades further. At first, you see just a few portraits of Shu, then multiple walls of pictures, and finally, you see who she was really fixated on. The map itself even updates with a disturbing sketch of Hinako. It's understandable that as a young teenager, overwhelmed with feelings for a crush, you might act out, become childish, desperate for attention, not really knowing what to do. But Rinko turns cruel. The notes in her room start as clumsy attempts to confess her feelings for Shu, then they turn into insults aimed at Hinako, and eventually she even tries to disguise her handwriting to forge letters, threatening Hinako to stay away from Shu, even though she has no right to ask such a thing. Yet, none of these letters are finished. They're crumpled up drafts, thoughts Rinko could never actually express out loud. And that's what makes them so insidious. You're reading her darkest thoughts, hidden away, but now dragged into the open by Hinako traversing the other world. And of course, Hinako must also let go of Shu. You enter a small hall lined with pedestals displaying his prized possessions, toys, a model gun, notebooks, and then there are two empty spaces. From the other side of the door, you hear Shu's strained voice, reminiscing about each item, but faltering when he reaches the blanks. Before you can recover these items, a new mini-boss appears. You hear a wet, slapping sound as multiple limbs emerge. You see this creature with lesions all over its face, some kind of muzzle as it clutches at its skin, writhing in distress. The camera pans up to reveal a second body fused to its back and a gaping hole where its face should be. Its torso bulges with multiple pregnant bellies, breast, stomach, womb, all melding into one, all distended and shifting. The lowest belly contracts and ejects a fetal sac, which bursts into those blade dancer enemies you encountered earlier. This birthing monster vomits as the host body staggers forward, carrying it around like some kind of parasite. It's one of those designs that I feel doesn't need any further commentary, just a visceral image of the suffering of copious reproduction. Once you retrieve Shu's possessions, they start to raise more questions than they do answer. The first is a drawing of Hinako. It's crude, surrounded with insults, and drawn badly on purpose, she deduces. At first glance, feels a bit offensive. And then you recover this other belonging, a comic book about a shinobi battling robot enemies, and every robot has Hinako scrawled above it, with someone adding gory embellishments that the protagonist has done. It's pretty damning, as though Shu harbored some sort of resentment, turning Hinako into the villain in his childhood fantasies. But here's where it gets a bit ambiguous. These possessions are dated, half forgotten even by Shu himself. You can read them a little bit differently. Maybe the drawing was just a young boy's clumsy way of teasing a girl he actually liked. Maybe the comic book doodles were just a playful, look, that's you and that's me, that sort of childhood humour that's innocent and even affectionate in its own way. The problem is that we're seeing all of this through Hinako's eyes, and in this phase of the game she is fixated on severing every bond. Her interpretations of her memories may not reflect the truth, so much as her need to justify letting go. It's a really good example of Silent Hill's signature psychological ambiguity. Is this what Shu really felt? Or is this Hinako's projection, twisting the past to fit into her current state of mind? And when you finally find Shu, he is strung up in iron chains. He greets Hinako warmly despite this situation, and when she approaches, he tells her if this is what she wants, then he accepts it. And Hinako barely hesitates before releasing the restraint, sending him plunging to his death. Now, there's a fascinating parallel you get here. Just as you get your last glimpse of Shu, Foxmask steps into the frame. I haven't spoken much about him until now because Foxmask is this whole other story, or two, But he punctuates every intermission, always leading Hinako forward, always offering a shoulder and comfort. He's framed like a charming prince out of a fairy tale. Hinako even writes in her journal about how she likes it when he holds her hand and guides her. It's revealed that Hinako does have this romantic side to her. She's not just the unfeeling tomboy that her peers make her out to be. The fox mask soothes her after she says her goodbyes, commending her for letting go of what was difficult. He rewards her with small, gradual gestures of intimacy, resting a hand on her shoulder, holding her hand as she clings to his. Hinako appears spellbound, wrapped around his finger. Their closeness grows with each appearance. The touches, the embraces, and his smile widens more and more. It's such a contrast to Shu, who treated her just like a childhood friend, never a woman, and who she even pushed away herself when there were instances of non-romantic touching. During the earlier purification ritual, Fox Mask demonstrates how Hinako should pray and cleanse herself, but as she looks, the water in the fountain becomes lava. She panics, but he reassures her, and when she looks back again, it appears just as it did before, water. Yet the sheen of sweat on her face betrays the truth. When she drinks it, she collapses to her knees, burning from the inside. Her blind trust in him is already overriding her instincts as she is trying to convince herself that this is what she wants, that she's ready for it, despite everything screaming otherwise. Later, Hinako takes part in another ritual, foreshadowed by this wide mural.
Ooh. Tearing off their face.
ここだ、ひなこ。
はい。今、参ります。
Who's going to tear my face off? Bite my hand off.
In the first part, two attendants wash her arm, place a gag in her mouth, and hand her a giant saw. She doesn't appear to need an explanation. She knows she has to sever her arm, and ironically, it's the same arm whose sleeve has torn earlier in the story. When she gathers the courage to go through with it, the attendants attach a massive white fox's arm to her stump. She can wield it as if it were her own, and it becomes your only but potent weapon in the other world now.
Please tell me I can attack with this arm. Oh, that's amazing.
Combat definitely feels more action-orientated at this point, with the arm swipes and charged attacks feeling like quite the power spike. I got such a dread feeling in my stomach upon hearing Hinako's reaction. She calls the arm beautiful, and her voice a little bit shell-shocked, obviously, but not really horrified, like she should be. It's as though she's trying to do this to please someone else, and has no thoughts of her own. The next step is to brand her back with this massive seal. Gameplay-wise, this allows you to absorb the spirits of enemies so that they don't resurrect, and to empower her new fox arm. And this time, Hinako refuses the gag, enduring pretty quietly. All the while, Fox Mask is at her side, whispering encouragement. You've done so well, you're so brave. And finally, as foreshadowed by the mural, part of her face is cut away. Onto it is fused a fox mask, not worn but grafted into her skin, and it unlocks the ability for you to see hidden rooms, but symbolically it's the most blatant transformation yet. Hinako is losing her identity, being reshaped into someone else's idea of beautiful. And once again, Fox Mask praises her, calling her beautiful. Then hand in hand the two walk down an aisle while onlookers celebrate. At the end of the room, an officiant waits. The implication is pretty clear here. They are getting married. And that is the real horror here. To Hinako, marriage looks like this: sacrificing yourself for someone else's satisfaction, mutilating yourself to meet their idea of beauty, surrendering your identity and being branded as property. The bird may be her symbol, but here she could not look more like a fox. However, this happy couple is interrupted by the officiant, who begins to bubble and rise, a stream of lava bursting forth. Her voice reveals that this is Rinko's evil spirit, She rages, spitting fire, a manifestation of her hatred for Hinako. She outrightly says, "I hate you." There's a lot of dialogue during this fight, which seems to reference Hinako's journal entry earlier about how the two fought often. They air their grievances, Hinako denying that she tricked or fooled Rinko, while Rinko spitting venom at her. And what I really like is how there are these other schoolgirls that spawn during the battle, and they appear to represent this other side of Rinko. When she lashes out with something clearly hateful, one of the other girls will cry and sob. These are the fragments of her inner self, clearly in pain. Hinako insists that she doesn't deserve this abuse, and that she shouldn't be blamed for someone else's unhappiness. And when the fight finally ends, Hinako smiles and thanks Rinko for revealing how she really felt, before finishing her off for good. When Hinako resurfaces in the real world, her journal reveals some really fascinating contradictions. In the Fox Mask section, she writes about her devotion and obsession to him that has clearly deepened. She says that she trusts him to make all of her decisions for her. But in her own section, she insists that she cannot stand other people making decisions for her. She wants to figure out things herself and is willing to make mistakes along the way. It even ends on a small anecdote about how her sister would show her how to do something before she had a chance to try it herself, and how much that still lingers in her mind. And right on cue, a bell rings.
姉ちゃん久しぶりねひなか
We finally get to see Junko's face, but it isn't her face at all. It's yet another mask, like so many of the other women wear in this game. And I tried to find out what this specific mask was meant to be, and the closest I could find was the Korobase mask. In theatre, the Korobase depicts women who are deranged, possessed, or consumed by emotion. The bulging eyes and twisted expressions are meant to signal hysteria or vengeance. Traditionally, the Korobase dance is performed with the small jingling of bells, which feels fitting here because at the beginning of the game, Hinako gifts her sister a bell charm before she left to be married. And to Hinako, it seems that that marriage was the moment her sister lost control of her life. And seeing Junko now, her skin a deathly grey on her neck and her hands, supports this. Junko delivers a warning here. Hinako is lost, and she alone must decide her future. Not Fox Mask, not her friends, not even her family. Only Hinako. After leaving Shu's house, you circle back to the beginning, Hinako's home, and this area's theme is foreshadowed in one of Hinako's journal entries, where she recalls how Junko once made her do maze puzzles. And honestly, this is my favourite section of the game, second only to the school. The house is so much bigger than what Hinako remembers. Its layout wrong, but not completely unfamiliar. You slide open doors, find keys for locks, collect strange items, and progress down a hallway, only to end up right back where you started. But each loop, something changes. Rooms that were once locked are now open, others vanish altogether, and some spaces transform with unsettling new details. The bathroom, for example, which first had a clean, clear tub, now clouds over with murky water and gives off a foul, revolting stench. There are 3 versions of the house in total, and as you cycle through them, you carry the puzzle items and answers from one iteration to the next. Some details are so fleeting that you might miss them, while others are grotesque and unavoidable. One of the strangest moments in the whole game happens here.
What is this? Oh. It's a big one. Ew, his eyes real. And his head. I don't know what that is, but it's creepy. Ugh. I should leave right away. Yeah. Okay.
A gargantuan doll split open across the forehead. Beneath its painted surface is not wood, but flesh, raw, bloody, and glistening. One eye is disturbingly realistic, glowing gold, and its painted brows are knotted in a permanent scowl. For me, this was one of the most Silent Hill-esque moments in the entire game. There's no explanation, no journal entry, no exposition, just raw, abstract horror. Its sheer size and presence dominates the room, and I've seen speculation that this is a reference to the Eileen head from Silent Hill 4, and I think that's very plausible. There are certainly theories you could apply to this, but what I loved is that it wasn't explained. So much of Silent Hill F is documented in Hinako's journal. You're given clear insight into what monsters mean and how she feels, but this is pure inexplicable weirdness, and that's exactly the gut punch unpredictability that I've come to really appreciate in this series. Exploring deeper into the house, you relive flashbacks of Hinako's family, arguments at the dinner table that boil over into violence, Hinako yelling at her father for the way he treats them and scolds her mother for never standing up for herself. In a fit of rage, her father hurls a kitchen knife at her. Now, of course, that's inexcusable, but scattered notes do flesh out more of his backstory. Once a fisherman, he dreamed of opening a restaurant, but fell into debt after being scammed. Hinako lashes out that he risked their money and their happiness, but at this point, you, like Hinako, still don't know the full story. Her perspective is adolescent, fixating on things like clothes and the shame that Junko endured by wearing cheap hand-me-downs. But her father grows furious at his daughter's lecturing, and the memory warps into a fight. His knife grotesquely expands, and so too does his body, twisting into the bloated, monstrous version of himself that you have seen repeatedly throughout the game. He is a belching drunk, clutching to his fish knife as the only thing he still takes pride in, and Hinako's mother appears too, her eyes covered in flowers, a metaphor for her blindness to the abuse. Hinako admits that she hates her father, but she also resents her mother for allowing this to happen. Interestingly, during this duo fight, the mother can actually be struck by some of the father's attacks, showing how his violence doesn't spare her either. Hinako's journal updates with one of the darkest revelations in the entire story. Under her father's section, she writes about debt, that he managed to pay it off, but only by selling his daughter. Yes, you heard that right. Hinako's bedroom confirms it. You find letters from a man written in a strangely formal but intimate tone, commenting on her growing up. One is even perfumed. Slowly it dawns on you that these are the letters from the man Hinako has been promised to, and that's when it clicks. Perhaps Hinako imagined Foxmask as this figure, powerful, someone who could protect her, comfort her, and rescue her from a broken home. When the otherworld reclaims her, Foxmask pins a brooch to her lapel, etched with a fox crest. "Now everyone will know you're mine," he says. At this point, I'm going to cut to the reveal in the final act and briefly explain who the fog monster really is. So this is your last chance before we get into the meaning. After Hinako defeats her parents, they actually transform back into their human selves and shuffle sheepishly out of the house. Hinako follows them, but outside towers an abnormally tall figure in white with a hollowed-out face. In either hand it holds her parents suspended in the air, and just as Hinako realizes what's happening, they are crushed before her eyes. Filled with rage, Hinako chases after the fog monster, now fully revealed. As she does, she screams and blames it for ruining everything, taking away her happiness, her parents, her friends, and her town. Not her fault, but its fault. And when she finally catches up, she too is grabbed, and you see the monster has a fox arm, just like Hinako in the other world. Junko steps into view and shockingly orders the monster to kill you, and it obeys. Now bear with me here because it does get crazy. Time rewinds, and you see the events from the perspective of Otherworld Hinako. She and Foxmask complete their union ceremony, and when they do, spider lilies engulf her body completely. This is the symbolic death of her old self. From the flowers emerges her new form, the fog monster, or more specifically, the shiromuku, the white kimono worn by a bride, complete with the wataboshi, the bridal veil. The faceless bride is what has been stalking Hinako all along. The thing that shrouds her town in mist is her. You then see the same scene from another angle. Her parents are overjoyed to see their daughter in a wedding dress. They look at her with pride, crying as they bid farewell, offering parting words as she officially leaves their household to join another. Through Hinako's childish eyes, though, this is a monstrosity, but to her parents, a tradition. And with that, Hinako severs her penultimate connection. The last thing she has to do is cut away self. The idea of two Hinakos is teased gradually throughout the game. At one point, she even writes that she feels like there are two versions of herself, the girl she has always been, and another woman trying to take over her body. And the game literalizes this. Hinako has a confrontation with the other version of herself. The two Hinakos switch in and out of the other world without remembering what the other one has seen, plus the fact that their demeanors are completely different. This is what Junko has been hinting at, telling Hinako to kill her childish self off so she can grow up, become a woman, and get married. Probably the same choice Junko herself had to make, cutting off everyone and everything to devote herself to being a wife. So inside Hinako, there are her two sides. Her childhood self, who just wants to play Space Wars with Shu and stay in that moment forever, and her adult self, rushing headlong into marriage. The Fox Hinako. Silent Hill loves to twist your perception, so it's revealed that the Hinako you've been controlling in the real world isn't actually who she is now. You've been reliving fragmented memories of her youth. In reality, Hinako is already an adult, on the verge of being married. That is why Junko orders the fog monster, adult bride-to-be Hinako, to kill her childhood self. That side has to go in order to submit to the values of a good wife. But to child Hinako, this transformation into adulthood looks like becoming a faceless monster, mutilated and blank. Now, I'm not going to dive into the endings here because honestly, I've barely scratched the surface of all the events and themes and other characters in this game because they deserve their own time to explain. But the gist is that everything culminates in Hinako facing herself. She has to sever the last tether of her childhood. The first ending makes this brutally clear. Adult Hinako is too caught up in her younger self, internally begging for her back. But this is impossible. Hinako is already in her 20s. Already at the cusp of marriage, and because she cannot reconcile with her past self, she cannot find peace in her present. On your first playthrough, this is the only ending you can obtain, and that might be a bit controversial for some people, but it does make sense, because when you start New Game Plus, the game shifts quite dramatically. It isn't just a simple replay. Some slower sections have been trimmed for brevity, enemy placements have been moved to catch you off guard, new areas open up, there are new puzzles and items that appear, and extra dialogue and cutscenes that completely flip your understanding of certain characters on their head. It is not designed to be played once. It's Ryukishi 7's trademark time loop twist, forcing you to revisit the story again and again to grasp its full meaning. And honestly, I think it works. The Silent Hill community has always thrived on re-examining these games, digging into the layers of symbolism, piecing together theories and finding new details on playthrough after playthrough. And Silent Hill F makes that a part of the structure itself. My brain was buzzing like crazy when I finished this game for the first time, filled with theories and connections. So playing it again and right from the start, getting new information to validate what I had been thinking was really satisfying. And if anything in this video intrigued you, I would really recommend checking it out for yourself. Don't forget to use my link in the description, as it would really help me out. And I would really like to talk more about what I couldn't fit in this video, but trust me, it is a lot. But I hope this was a good summary of my experience playing it for the first time, and thank you so much again to Konami for letting me play their game and sponsoring this video. Right, I'm gonna go get a bandage or something. Farewell for now, everyone.